Hello everyone, Tmmgamer here, and today I have the pleasure to bring you another one of my Call of Duty videos. Now today's video, as you can see from the title, is a message to Infinity Ward. Now, what I've normally done over the past couple of years, like 2 or 3 months before a new Call of Duty's out, I say what the good things about the last Call of Duty have been, and what the next game should really focus on. And obviously the next game is going to be Infinity Ward's Call of Duty Ghosts. So this video I'm going to be running through Black Ops 2, I'm going to be running through past Infinity Ward games, saying where they're strong, saying where they're weak, and highlighting what I think really needs to be focused on in a new Call of Duty. So before I dive into that, there's just one thing I want to quickly say. I really am interested to hear what you guys think about my ideas and what I have to say about the previous Call of Duties, but before you rush off on comment, listen to the entire video, listen to the whole picture, and then I'll be very, very interested to see what you think. So that's all of that done. Let's dive straight into it now. The first part of this video is going to be focusing on Black Ops 2, and I have to say, in my opinion, Black Ops 2 is the best Call of Duty that there has been that I've played. Now, I've got into Call of Duty very, very heavily in COD 4. I've had about nearly 30 days of multiplayer gameplay on that, and I've played every other Call of Duty very solidly since. So now I've got a fair amount of experience in Call of Duty, and I have to say, in my opinion, Black Ops 2 is the best. And the reason why I think this is, you know, if you look at Black Ops 2 multiplayer in its entirety, the vast majority of the maps are fantastic. The weapon balance is tremendous. They brought in several really interesting game modes. I mean, Hardpoint's a great example. Hardpoint is arguably my favourite game mode in any Call of Duty of all time. But in addition to this, they had a wide variety of score streaks, so if you wanted to go for the high ones, you could have some very interesting options. They had some of the lower ones, which are very nicely balanced as well, so you had a good amount of variety in that. But the best advancement this Call of Duty has had is the point system. The focus on team play and shooting stuff down and getting on objectives and having more points from getting kills on objectives or when you're capturing something. You know, the point system in this game is absolutely tremendous, and I think all of these things added together really do make Black Ops 2 the best Call of Duty I've played. So bearing that in mind, Infinity Ward really do have some massive things they're going to have to follow. However, Black Ops 2 does have a few problems. It isn't a perfect game, and I'm going to run through a couple of these now. The major problem I have with Black Ops 2 isn't to do with the gameplay, it's to do with the players. Now, I've always said this, I think the players are the worst thing about Call of Duty because they always find the cheapest exploits they can, and it's very, very annoying. But in this case, because the perks are so well balanced and the weapons are so well balanced, the problem with the players isn't so much the classes they use, but the fact they leave all of the time. And if you guys have played any length of Black Ops 2 online, you would see this yourself. What happens most of the time is you'll go into any game, it can be absolutely any game at all. The team you're on will get quite a healthy lead, you'll be well up at half time, and then all of a sudden the entire enemy team leaves. And what happens most of the time is no one will join. So you'll spend the second half of the game 6-on-1, 6-on-2, and these two poor fools who have stayed in the game just spend the rest of it getting absolutely smashed into the floor. But another occurrence which happens because of this is you'll get a lot of new players joined, so you'll get people join games when there's lodestars in the air, VSATs, swarms, dogs, stealth choppers. You spawn into a game and you're 80 points down in a domination match. You have all of these streaks in the air, and you spend the next 3 minutes getting repeatedly spawn killed through no fault of your own. And I think this is the real major problem with Black Ops 2, that leaving has become so common now that it's become really the scourge of the game. And I think that one of the main reasons for this is, modern gamers seem to have the idea that they need to get instant gratification in games. They've spent £40 on the game, therefore they need to do very, very well immediately. So they'll go into a game and they'll try and do whatever they do, they'll try and get their streaks, and if they don't get it, they'll leave. And this creates a problem in two ways. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're on the other team and you spend the rest of the game playing against two players, it becomes interminably slow-paced. It's very, very boring. And if you're playing on a relatively large map, for example, Overflow. Overflow is in the 6v6 rotation, so very, very often you'll go into a normal domination game and Overflow will come up. But Overflow is quite a large map, and if you're playing with only 2 players on the enemy team, you spend 95% of your time running around looking for them, especially if they've got Ghost on. And I mean, if you're one of 2 players on the team, chances are you are going to whack Ghost on, because there's so many UAVs up in the air, it's the only way you're going to survive for more than 15 seconds. So That really does slow the game down. But on the flip side, if you're a new player who joins a lobby where you're getting absolutely spanked through no fault of your own, you're going to be really annoyed. And I've had this happen to me loads of times. You know, I join games where the enemy team is just absolutely smashing us, and then I spend the next 3 minutes getting murdered through no fault of my own. So the first major thing that I want Call of Duty Ghosts to do is punish these players who leave games early. Now, I can understand sometimes, for example, in the situation where I've just mentioned, you join a game late, an enemy team is just absolutely thumping you, and you don't want to stay in there. So the solution I'd implement is this. If you spend more than 45 seconds in a game and then leave before it's over, you get a 5-minute ban on joining new games. And what this will stop is, for example, if you join a game late, you see the enemy team's just murdering you, you can quickly leave and it won't punish you at all. But if you join a game from the start, play to half time, start to lose, and then leave a game, the game won't let you search for a new one for 5 minutes. And what this will do is it will stop players from leaving games early. Because if the game says, right, you cannot now play our game for 5 minutes because you left, it would stop people leaving. And this would solve two problems with one solution. Because it would stop everyone from bailing games where they're playing badly or things aren't going their way. And it will stop the poor fools from joining games late and getting murdered through no fault of their own. And this really is the major problem I have with Black Ops 2. I hate how many players leave games. And this solution would solve that straight away. So that's the first thing I really wanted to do with the new Call of Duty. Get that problem solved, because it is very, very frustrating. The next problem I have with Black Ops 2 is the connection. And you know, the real problem isn't with the lag compensation. You know, lag compensation, I do moan about it a couple of times, but in general, lag compensation is a very, very good system. The problems arise when the game picks just absolutely moronic hosts for lobbies. And you see this all of the time. You'll go into a game and the host will be on a 4-bar, 3 people will be on 3 bars, and the rest of the lobby will be on 2 bars. And it will flat out refuse to migrate the host for 5 minutes into the game. And then all of a sudden it will migrate to someone who gives everyone 4 bars. So you sit there and you think, hang on, no one's left this lobby, all of these 12 players are in from the start. Why did you give the guy with his hand-cranked internet the option to host the game when you've got a guy in 100 meg down who can very, very easily carry the lobby? And this is the real problem. There must be some problems with the algorithm for allocating hosts in lobbies, because like I mentioned, occasionally you just get absolutely atrocious hosts. And this is when lag compensation struggles, because then you have the coat hanger deaths where you don't take any damage, you see a guy on your screen, you pull the trigger, and then all of a sudden someone's put a coat hanger around your neck, pulled you backwards, and you're dead before you've even hit the ground. You have no idea what's happened. But then you look at the kill cam, and on that guy's screen, he's been putting bullets into you for about 2 seconds. And this is the major discrepancy that these poor hosts cause. So if you solve the algorithm, that will solve the lag compensation problems, because lag compensation is only a problem when the host is terrible. So if you stop picking terrible hosts, the problems will disappear. So that's the second thing that really, really annoys me about that. You know, not so much the connection, but the problem with picking dodgy hosts. So hopefully that's one thing that'll be solved in COD Ghost. And the third major problem that I want to talk about that I've found in Black Ops 2 is the spawns. And this is a thing that's really niggled at me, because the spawns have been a problem in every single Call of Duty, and it doesn't seem like they can fix it. And the good thing is, in game modes, for example, like Domination or Demolition, where the spawns are slightly more rigid, it doesn't seem to be too much of a problem anymore. For example, if you're in a Domination game and you're holding B and A, most of the time you'll spawn in between B and A, so you know roughly where you're going to spawn. If you're just getting CDOM, you'll spawn by CDOM, so chances are you're going to spawn by your teammates, away from the enemy, and you're going to have a few seconds just to gather your thoughts, find out where you are, find out where you want to go, and then off you poodle to try and kill some people. And that's the real aim for spawns. You don't want to be shot at within a couple of seconds of being spawned. So the rule that they have is a 3-second rule. So what they're trying to achieve is, for the first 3 seconds of your life, you won't run into anyone or anything that can kill you. So you won't see any people, you won't run into a C4, you won't run into a Claymore, all of that good stuff. And in Domination, in Demolition, that tends to work. However, In the game modes with the slightly more flexible spawns, and the one that immediately jumps to mind here is kill confirmed, the spawns are absolutely awful. The amount of times people spawn on your backside, or you die and then spawn in exactly the same place again and have a gunfight with the guy who's just killed you, it's just so annoying. And the thing that really annoys me in Call of Duty, and I'll get to this point in relation to other things later, is dying when it's not your fault. If someone gets the jump on you, or if you have an aim fail, or if you reload at the wrong time and you die, you just sit back and go, fair enough, I made a mistake, or that guy was better than me in that gunfight. If you repeatedly die due to shoddy spawns, that is so incredibly frustrating, because you're dying through no fault of your own. So I really think that they need to put a lot of focus on these spawns, because it's been a problem since COD 4. You know, it's the COD where I really played a lot of it, and I noticed that, and every single Call of Duty since has had problems with the spawn mechanics. So if you cannot sort the spawns out, 5-6 years after the first major successful game came out, there's something drastically wrong. So hopefully, fingers crossed, in COD Ghosts they get it right. And what I'd like to see is, if you want to spawn someone in, spawn them in miles from the gunplay. I'd rather take 10 seconds to get into combat than have someone spawn on my backside or be spawned in the middle of a massive gunfight. So that's what I'd rather do. Definitely err on the side of caution with spawns. I know you want your games to be fast-paced, and one of the great things about Call of Duty is its fast-paced nature. But the spawns, especially in game modes like Kill Confirmed, go too far. So that's the thing that I desperately wanted to change. So those are the 3 major problems I have with Black Ops 2, and those are the 3 areas that I really want Ghosts to improve on. So now that I've outlined that, let's move on to a few more Infinity Ward based things, because this is a really important Call of Duty for Infinity Ward, because over the last 2 Call of Duties there have been pretty large problems, because COD 4 was a massively successful game. A lot of people look back at that game with rose-tinted spectacles, but there's no denying it was an absolutely tremendous Call of Duty. I mean, it had a few problems. Frag times 3 was overpowered. You had the M16 and the MP5, which are very good weapons, but overall that game was fantastic. But since then, Infinity Ward games have had pretty big problems. I mean, you look at Modern Warfare 2, that game was just the biggest mess of all time. It had so many overpowered weapons, it had one-man army, the spawns were awful, some of the maps were horrendous, and Infinity Ward didn't support it at all. I mean, I remember the javelin glitch. The javelin glitch was when, basically, when you died with a javelin in your hands, you exploded with the force of a javelin missile. Now, normally you had to aim javelins, it took a couple of seconds, and you couldn't fire them straight on you. But you go into a Rust match, and someone would be using the javelin glitch, they just charge around, and every time they died, they'd take out 4 people. And this glitch remained unpatched for about a month and a half. And this wasn't one of those tiny little glitches where, only a few people know about it. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people use this. And Infinity Ward couldn't patch it. And then partially, this was because a lot of Infinity Ward employees had left or had been fired, so they didn't have the manpower to support their game. So that was one of the major problems. But the weapon balance issue has carried over into Modern Warfare 3, because if you look back at Modern Warfare 2, you had, for example, the UMP, a submachine gun that was a 3-bullet kill at all ranges, and it had no recoil. So you could have a situation where you'd have a sniper rifle, you'd shoot a guy with a UMP across the map, he'd survive your 50 cal round, and then black you down with his pistol ammunition from across the map. And it was just ridiculous. And Infinity Ward games have always had problems with balance. If you look at Modern Warfare 3 as well, you had weapons like the ACR, which were just insanely overpowered. I mean, it was just such a good weapon. Everyone used it. It was ridiculous. And if you look on the perk side of things, the major example of this is Assassin Pro. Assassin Pro is the most overpowered perk in the history of Call of Duty. One perk protected you from UAVs, thermal scopes, heartbeat sensors, portable radars, counter UAVs, EMPs, and as well as this, when an enemy targeted you, he wouldn't get a red crosshair or your red name above you. So that is one perk. One perk does all of that, and this is the major problem with Infinity Ward games. Treyarch also had this problem before. I mean, if you look back to Black Ops, when every single man and his dog was using the FAMAS, or if you go back further to World at War, where Juggernaut MP40 extended mags was just the go-to class for about 80% of the people who played that game, you begin to see a bit of a common problem. But the great thing is, in this Call of Duty, Treyarch have really sharpened up. I mean, there's several weapons which are good, and players will say, "Oh, this is the best weapon," but there's not that one god cannon weapon in Black Ops 2, and that's really what you're looking for, because when you're trying to balance 25, 30 weapons and then try and balance them with 15, 16 perks, that is so difficult, and it's going to be inevitable that some weapons are slightly better than others. It's going to be virtually impossible to equally balance all of them. But where the problem comes from is that some weapons were just half as good as the other ones. So, for example, in Modern Warfare 2, you had the F2000, which was just absolutely atrocious when you compared it to weapons like the ACR, the UMP, or the TAR. Those weapons were 3 times as good as the F2000. And you go to the secondary weapons section, because in that game, shotguns were secondary weapons. You had the SPAS-12, which was just filthy compared to the AA-12. The AA-12 was a terrible weapon. When the SPAS-12, you would go in and just destroy everyone. So this is a real focus for Infinity Ward games. Get the weapon balance down and get the perk balance down. Stop making stealth perks so powerful. Because I've always had a bit of a bee in my bonnet about stealth perks. I absolutely detest them. But I understand that the vast majority of people want a stealth perk in the game, and I can understand, yeah, fine, you can get it in. But the problem with a stealth perk is it has to be correctly balanced. And, for example, when you go back to Call of Duty 4, you had, I think it was UAV Jammer in the perk 2 setup, and that was up against Stopping Power and Juggernaut. So 2 perks which made you much better in a gunfight. Much, much better, because a Stopping Power would mean you killed in a bullet less, and Juggernaut would mean you survived a bullet more. So they were quite well balanced. Whichever one you chose, you'd be better. So if you ran that UAV Jammer and you run head to head into a guy with Stopping Power, the Stopping Power guy would kill you every single time. However, if you ran UAV Jammer and flanked him, you would have the advantage. So it was very, very nicely balanced. You could run stealth, but you'd be at a massive disadvantage in a head-to-head gunfight, but at the same time you'd be invisible, so you could flank better and get your advantage in that way. If you go onto a game like Modern Warfare 3, like I've mentioned, Assassin was just so overpowered because it had no competition. You could run Assassin and be no worse in a gunfight, so there was literally no incentive to run anything apart from Assassin. And when you go back to how much you could do, and I mean, I've mentioned it before, but I'm going to say it again for just effect, having that one perk which protects you from UAVs, thermal scopes, heartbeat sensors, portable radars, counter UAVs, EMPs, and removes your red crosshair and name when someone's aiming at you, that's just insanity. It's absolute insanity. You want your game to be fast paced, and then you make the stealth perk by far and away the most overpowered perk in the game. Of course people are going to use it. People are going to use the things which are easier, and you can't go out there and say you want a fast paced game and then make a stealth perk so stupendously overpowered as that. And I have to say, this is another thing where Treyarch have done very, very well with this Call of Duty. Ghost is the best balanced it's ever been since COD 4, because the new thing with Ghost is if you sit still, you will appear on UAV and you will appear on radar. You have to move around to gain the benefit of Ghost, and this is really what UAV Jammer, when it was originally brought into the game, was intended. It was intended not so you'd be this absolute unkillable monster in close combat. It was intended so that you could flank and try and, get round people, get them off objectives, and help your team. That was the benefit of it. But because Stopping Power was taken from the game, and because Juggernaut was taken from the game, Assassin had no real conflict, no real battle in that perk 2 anymore. It was just the best perk, so everyone ran it, and it really was a massive detriment to Modern Warfare 3, and it was one of the reasons why I stopped playing that game very, very early. It was just too much. It was really too much. So that's the major thing Infinity would have to look at. Get your weapon balancing sorted. Just avoid having that God Cannon. And please, please make sure that Assassin isn't overpowered, because it ruined the game for me. It really did ruin the game. And Modern Warfare 3 had a lot of good points, but that was one of the real stinkers that brought it down. So that's something that I desperately want them to focus on. And the next thing I really want Infinity Ward to focus on is death streaks. Death streaks were not in Black Ops 2, and no one's missed them. Absolutely no one has missed them. And Infinity Ward have always had a tendency to make their games very noob friendly. And what I mean by this is they always reward people for doing badly, and this is complete anathema to me. I've always never understood why someone would want to do this. Why would you want to punish people who've taken the time to become good at your game? You know, people who are fans of your series, who've played your game so much that they've become good at it, and you're now punishing them for having the temerity to play your game a lot. You know, I really don't understand that. And if you look back into the annals of Call of Duty again, look at the death streaks they've done. Firstly, Painkiller. Painkiller gave you 3 times as much health. So you could survive 3 sniper rounds, and kill a guy. It was just brainless. How that even got through playtesting, I just seriously don't understand. Because, you know, a guy would die 4 times and then he'd turn into Rambo, and you couldn't kill him. You know, if you had an assault rifle, you would have to put every single round of your magazine into him to kill him, and all he had to do was hit you with 3 bullets with his UMP. And you just begin to see straight away how insanely ridiculous that was. But I think in Modern Warfare 3, they really did take the boat further, because, you know, obviously they had Last Stand as a perk. And if you guys haven't played the older Call of Duties, you know, Last Stand was when you took damage, basically you'd fall onto your backside, you'd pull your pistol out, and you had the opportunity to shoot people when you were down. This was absolutely balls, because you've lost that gunfight, you've died, you've taken enough damage to die because it's triggered the Last Stand perk, and now you have the ability to kill me through complete BS. And it was in the original Black Ops, but the good thing with Black Ops, if you used a shotgun, it would cut through that, so it wouldn't really help you at all. So it was just basically a wasted perk if you're up against shotgunners, and that was slightly better, but even so, it was still a horrendous idea. And Robert Bowling came up onto the stage before Modern Warfare 3 and said, "We've got rid of Last Stand. F you, Last Stand. Yeah, yeah," and got a massive cheer from the audience. What he didn't tell people was, all they'd done is renamed it and put it as a death streak. So they hadn't got rid of it at all. So you would shoot a guy, he would fall into Last Stand, he'd fall on his backside, and he could kill you when you should have killed him. And the problem with this was, in the motion of going from a standing position to a falling position, they would have invincibility frames. So you could shoot them, but they wouldn't take any damage. So you'd shoot a guy, you'd have 3 bullets left in your magazine, you'd continually shoot him as he fell, he'd live because he was invincible, you'd have to reload, and then he would kill you. So that was pretty horrendous. But Infinity Ward went even further than this. They found a way to make Last Stand even more horrendous. And it was something called Dead Man's Hand. So you would do exactly the same thing you would with Last Stand. When you took a certain amount of damage that you'd normally die, you'd fall on your backside, but instead of having a pistol, now you had C4. So all you'd have to do is press 1 button to kill everyone around you. How insane is that? So literally, you don't have to have any skill at all anymore. Because with Last Stand, at least you had to aim at the guy to kill him. Now you had to press 1 button, so you had a 1 button wins all gunfight. So death streaks are absolutely horrendous. I'm so glad they're out of the game. Just don't bring them back. They are so bad. And then also on the noob friendly topic, you had things like Commando. You had Tack Knife Commando, and Commando, what it did was it extended your melee range. So you would have people basically teleporting around the map like there's some Dota character or a Jedi, knifing people in the face. And the great thing with Commando was it had invincibility frames as well. So you'd have people charge through bullet streams to shank you in the face with their tack knife pistol. And it was just so stupid, because Call of Duty, it's about a military game. You know, it is about gun-on-gun skill. Whoever has the best gun skill wins. When you have a one-hit kill knife that can basically initiate from 10 meters away, that really does take it out, because it's just brainless. Why would you run a close combat weapon when your most powerful weapon in the game is a 2-inch piece of steel, which is a one-hit kill seemingly through any situation, and your shotgun that you're blatting a guy through does no damage because he just knives you through the bullet stream? This is the real problem with Infinity Ward. I understand that you want to get new players into the game, and I understand that you don't want to drive them into the ground by having players 4 times their skill level just repeatedly poop on them. But this is why you have matchmaking. You have matchmaking so players are put in with players of roughly the same ability, and they can slowly build up. I mean, I can remember when I first played Modern Warfare 1 or COD 4. I was horrendous. I was absolutely horrendous. It took me about 5 months of playing that game to get my KD above 1. You know, I was truly atrocious at the game. I had no idea about the maps, no idea about what was a good class to use, couldn't use the weapons, my aim was atrocious. I'd shoot sky, floor, sky, floor, sky, instead of actually middle at the guy I was aiming at. So if I went, 10 and 10, I'd consider that a good game. But do you know what happened? I played, I got better, and now I'm in the position to be the guy who does well and dominates and gets nice games. So by making a game so incredibly noob focused, it removes any sense of reward from doing well. Because there's just so many cheap classes, anyone can do well. And this is a real problem with the gaming industry, I think. There's this culture of instant gratification in games. If you don't get reward instantly, they won't play the game. And this is so dangerous, and it shouldn't be encouraged. Because what it does, it takes out deeper experiences from games. It prevents you from enjoying a rewarding game. So you can just go in on day one and noob your way to kills through Dead Man's Hand, through filthily overpowered weapons, through overpowered score streaks and perks. It just takes out so much enjoyment from the game. In COD 4, when I battled my way from being absolutely shocking to being reasonable, and then I started to get those games, they were so much more rewarding because I'd appreciated the fact that I'd improved and battled my way up to a better standard, and now because I'd done that, I was playing better and getting better scores and what have you, and going from there. So this is, please, I'm on my knees begging you now, Infinity Ward, don't put death streaks in the game, don't have an overpowered stealth perk, don't get the Godkins out, don't do commando, because it just takes away so much from the experience, and it really is a detriment to the game in the long run. And yeah, you might get a few people, a few noobs, get them a little bit of enjoyment in their first half an hour, but things like that really do destroy how the core community feels about the game. So those are the real things, but the rest of it now is just going to be more, good things which have happened in the last few Call of Duties that I want Infinity Ward to carry on. And the first one of these is the pick 10 points class system. This is absolutely fantastic. It is the best class system we have ever had. It is tremendous. The amount of options you can do with this class system, it must number into the tens of thousands, and it gives you so much more variety. And what it does, it keeps the game interesting for longer, because in the previous Call of Duties, about 2 or 3 months in, everyone knew the strongest classes. The classes were nailed down, no one varied. If they were going to play league play or game battles, they'd have a set list of 3 classes that they would go in and use. And eventually that filters through to pubs. The pubs find the best 3 or 4 classes and they begin to abuse them. And it really does take the longevity out of a game. When you have this pick 10 point system, because you have so many options, it takes players months and months and months to figure out good classes. I'm still learning brilliant new class combinations now, and this is towards the end of Black Ops 2's life cycle. So the game's been out 6-7 months, and I'm still finding out tremendous new class options and different combinations and new items that I haven't tried before. So definitely keep that up. You made a great step forward in Modern Warfare 3 with the specialist class, when you could just forego score streaks with perks. That was a really great idea, and Infinity Ward really did set the way for Treyarch, and that Treyarch built on that and made a much better class system because of it. So please don't go backwards, keep that pick 10 in, add a few innovations of your own, and it will really make Call of Duty better. So that's one thing I'd go for. The second thing, and this is a really small thing, but it just goes to show how much attention you've paid, is the leaderboards. The leaderboards in Black Ops were really good. It was on score per minute, it showed win-loss, it showed important things. Modern Warfare 3's leaderboards went back to just kills, straight KD. And I've said this before, and I will say it again, KD is an irrelevant stat in Call of Duty. I would much rather have someone with a 0.8 KD and a 3 win-loss than a 3 KD and a 0.8 win-loss, because that shows to me that you are just camping. You are sitting at the back of the map, camping, and if your teammates win the game for you, well done, because you're not going to help at all. That guy with a 3 win-loss, yeah, he might have a negative KD, but that's because he's throwing himself on hard points. He's contesting those domination flags at the start. That is someone I'd much rather have. So please reflect that on the leaderboards. Please don't show me your KD, or show it, but show it in addition to the win-loss and the score per minute, because those are 2 stats which are so much more important than the straight KD. Because you could have a 200 200 score per minute and a 3 KD, and that is atrocious. That is an atrocious player, because you are just so campy, you're negative, and yeah, you go in 6-2 in games, but in a domination game, that's abysmal. So please, because this is all part of encouraging the right style of play. And this might seem quite weird, but there is definitely a style of play you want to encourage in Call of Duty. You want to encourage that front foot play, the aggressive, objective focus play. And that's why the Black Ops 2 point system was so good, because it actively rewarded players for playing objectives and shooting kill streaks down. So if you reward people in-game for doing that, and then show the leaderboards at the end of the game that we are going to rank you on how well you play the objective and how well you help your team, not on how many kills you get. That is a really strong, positive message to play the game in this way. And this is why I always have a bit of a rant about people who upload YouTube videos and they go like 83-3 and lose by 40 points in the domination, because you are just playing the game in the wrong way. It is about winning. Please encourage people to try and win games, because there's nothing more frustrating than going into a domination game and 4 of your teammates are camping and you're the only person trying to capture the flag. It's just depressing to play matches like that. So the leaderboards are a very, very nice way to try and just get the message across. A little elbow in the side. Hey, do you know your win-loss is quite low? Do you want to do something about that? Do you want to get that up a bit? Your KD's a bit too high there. Just get on some domination flags. And the leaderboards, it's such a small thing when you look at it, in isolation, but it just shows a wider care about your game, and that's something that I think Infinity Ward need to improve on, because like I said, they didn't support their game very well in Modern Warfare 2. There were mitigating circumstances for that, definitely, but in Modern Warfare 3, the leaderboards, Black Ops had bought these fantastic leaderboards in a year before. Why go backwards? I don't understand the mentality of going backwards there. So definitely keep the leaderboards up. Keep the pick 10. There's so many good things that have come out on Call of Duty over the last few years. Keep them. Cut the filth, because it's just no one wants that anymore. And bring the game forward. So guys, that's the end of the video. I understand it's a bit of a long one, but I wanted to make this, a nice in-depth video explaining what I like about Call of Duty and what I don't like and want to see improved in the next one, because this is a really important time for Call of Duty now. Call of Duty has dominated the gaming market for a very, very long time, but if you continuously just update the game, just reskin the same game, eventually people are going to get bored. So they're going to have to keep pushing what an FPS can do to keep themselves on the top. And the only time I think Call of Duty will really die is when they become complacent and they're just prepared to upload a reskin, because a lot of people criticize Call of Duty for just doing that. But when you actually look objectively at some of the innovations Call of Duty has brought to the FPS scene, they're really big things. Perks, score streaks, the pick 10 system, these are big steps forward. These are very, very interesting mechanics that have really improved the FPS genres. So Call of Duty, yeah, it comes in for a bit of stick, but I think it comes in for it unfairly. But this is where Infinity Ward really has to make sure it doesn't drop the baton, because Treyarch have done a tremendous job with Black Ops 2 to take the series forward, and Infinity Ward have a great opportunity to solidify their place, because they have come in for a lot of criticism, very fairly in my opinion, for doing games which are just broken or massively imbalanced. So this is their opportunity to show, listen, we can do this. We can do great Call of Duty games. Don't lose faith in us. And I hope they do, because I like Call of Duty. I'm a Call of Duty fan. I've spent hundreds of hours playing this game, and I don't want to just see it limply die at the hands of developers who are a little bit uncertain as where to go and just reskin a game which has flaws. I want to see those flaws fixed. I want to see new things trialled, and I hope over the last half an hour, I've got my opinions across well, and you guys understand where I'm coming from. But just to finish off, I really am interested to hear what you guys think. I've put a couple of ideas out there. A few things are perhaps a little bit controversial, but I'd definitely be interested to hear what you have to say. So guys, if you've reached the end of this video, thank you for sticking with me and persevering. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, have a great day.